You're now listening to the Zod and Drea podcast.
Hey, welcome back to the Zod and Drea podcast.
Thank you guys for joining us again.
Yeah, so sorry we had the week off last week. Believe it or not, our week became so convoluted with events and everything else that we literally forgot to do a podcast.
Like, I wish we could say we were like on a vacation or something, but that's not going to happen for a few months.
So it's by the time we even remembered that we had to do one, it was like 2 a.m. and we were exhausted. That weekend was wild because that was when I had the emceeing. I don't know if anybody out there was listening, but I had the event Democracy Rocks that I came through with. Shout out to AZ Blue 2020 and Richard Gooding. Richard Gooding had invited me out, and Zod and Drea, both of us were there in different capacities. I was the MC. I was on stage. She was in the back registering voters, and we were just holding it all down along with so many other people that we saw out there.
Yeah, who were the guests?
So some of the guests that we got up there that we were, believe it or not, we got to even interview actually, we think about Zod and Drea. You know, I mean, the fact that we were able to interview him, in case you hadn't seen or listened to, make sure you listen to the last podcast, not last week, but the week before, because we had the author of Democracy
in Chains.
In Chains. Thank you, Democracy in Chains, Nancy McClain, and we had her interviewed, but she was also there for that day for the Democracy Rocks, as well as Democratic nominee for governor of Arizona, David Garcia, who we also were able to interview during his launch. But also Sharon Kirch was there, and Terry Goddard, and for SOS, and Terry Goddard, who was a former mayor. So we had a really great lineup, and if you didn't go, you missed a lot. But we're hoping that after the whole, event was over, people were just giving praise to everybody who was involved, and there should be others coming on. So make sure you check out the next one that comes through.
And also check out the previous podcast then with the interview with Dr. McClain.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so check that out. So also, if you want, let's just see what's going to be going on this week, because this event right here is, this episode right here is going to be awesome. So we're going to get through it real quick. For right now, let's talk about Crazy Ass Kanye, but that's going to be coming up soon. Crazy Ass Kanye West, if you haven't seen him on Saturday Night Live, he was a train wreck.
I have a good idea for a Halloween costume.
All right, yeah. And then, of course, rest in peace.
We're going to talk about our friend Ray Bradford, who we just were told today he passed away.
Yeah, so Ray was a really good guy, but we're going to talk about him real quick. And, of course, we're going to talk about Brett Kavanaugh and the measure of sexism and privilege, which is the topic today. So let's get into it. You know, let's start off with Ray. I mean, I think we should start this podcast off. It's going to be dedicated to him. Ray Bradford, gay man out here. I wouldn't even put that in front of his name, but he was so proud to be gay. You know, he was proud of who he was. He didn't stand down for anybody when he wanted justice, equality, not just in the LGBT community, which he was a very strong proponent of, but also he would stand up in black rights. He would stand up for women. He was very much a progressive.
He spoke out for rights for immigrants. Yeah, I mean, I had not met a man here in this state that stood up and really spoke out.
A white man.
Yeah, a white man. And, spoke out against injustice for so many people of color.
So many people of color, and he was just unrepentant of. You know, he
did not apologize for his remarks. He did not
apologize. I mean, what I loved is just this guy. He would just, whatever came out of his mouth, he would just say it. Like, this is just what it is. You might have gotten offended by what he said because he just didn't have that filter, but he didn't care. It was the message that was always behind him, and coming from the East and hearing that a lot, it was really, I guess, refreshing to hear that from someone who was also doing it on my behalf, on the behalf of black people, to know that there was a true ally who didn't even slow up. And the thing is, I think that the reason why so many people on the Facebook pages that you see that are just thanking him for his hard work, also praising his life, it's because he didn't slow down. He was always in the spaces that he needed to be in without doing it for show.
Yep, he was never looking for a photo opportunity.
No, but people wanted to take photos with him,
right,
or
right.
of him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were able to hang out with him. This was last year when what's his name? The Democratic Party, the National Democratic.
The trifecta that was launching together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Bernie Sanders, but Tom Perez had come through over here in Arizona, and we were some of the lucky few to be in the back to be able to talk to him real quick. And Ray Bradford was there. So I had taken a photo of Ray standing there listening to before he chimed in, and we posted up on the Zod and Drea podcast. So you're going to see it right here above, or at least below this post if you're on the website or on the Facebook site. But Ray was just one of those really good guys who didn't mind speaking up against those in power also. And that's what I really loved about it. Like the last time, I think it was probably either the last time or one of the last times we saw him was when we ran into when we were introduced, I should say, to Nancy Pelosi here in Arizona, which wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long when she came to town, and he was like, "Of course I'm here." Yeah, like this is what he does. He takes time out of his schedule. He volunteers. He was never paid to ever be at any of the events that I went with him.
No.
And or protest or canvassing. He would take time out of his own life and use his own resources to make change happen, and would volunteer with Equality Arizona, and many others. I just can't remember off the top of my head right now.
And what I loved about the dude is, like, he just gave these big hugs, and he was sick. He had Crohn's disease, which we don't know the official word, but you know, that's what he had. And it was sad to see him recently when we did see him at that event, because he was having a hard time moving. You remember, he was stiff, and like he still had his jokes and still was cracking jokes. And we were over there like, okay, we're going to be, you know, some of the few people who are going to meet up with Nancy Pelosi. And I just love, you remember what he said before he left? He's like, you know what? I already have a picture with her. You know, I'm just going to.
I got to go.
Yeah, I got to go. I got to get out of here.
I got another event I got to go to
I got
later.
to get out of here. So I'll see you guys. I swear, he was like 2 people behind. Like, all he had to do was wait. And he was like, you know what? I did that. Been there, done that. He didn't do it for the publicity. He didn't do it for any of that. He did it because he's Ray Bradford, and that he wanted to stand up for the little guy. And we respected that.
And it's a big void.
It's a big void.
It's a big void because, again, it's hard to find people that are truly, like you mentioned before, truly there to make a change happen, and not for the photo op, not for the tweets.
It wasn't for the tweets. You know, he did it because he really loved the community, loved Phoenix, loved downtown Phoenix, and he represented. So
purposely always would choose to live in downtown Phoenix. Like, he made a conscious decision.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he would always
even
say,
when the rent was going high, even when the rent was going up high, he's like,
nope,
I have to
stay
live
here. So we will miss you, but we know you'll be close all the time.
Yeah, so rest in peace to Ray Bradford, and thank you for everybody posting all of his photos and quotes and stories about Ray online so that they can stay there forever. All right, so moving on. Let's go on now to I almost don't want to even talk about this.
We've talked about this hot mess a few times on our podcast.
I believe we have, but we're going to talk about Kanye West once again. All right, so the last time Kanye opened up his mouth to something stupid was
last week.
No, yeah, but you remember he said some stupid stuff about slavery being a choice. As if the slaves were like, oh, you know what, I got nothing else to do. Let's just have a choice to be slaves.
Right. Like, I could walk away and everything be just fine. So, yeah, I have a choice. I could go and leave this master that's beating the tar out of me and oppressing me.
And he went on and tried to explain what it was, but it was something that was obviously not very well said because he is Kanye West. So he goes ahead, and if you haven't, let's just go even before that real quick, because he did 2 whammies in a row, and one of them was that this dude went on Saturday Night Live, and he acted like a damn fool for one of his songs with Lil Xan, and it was, what was it? It was some stupid song. I think it was Lil Xan or somebody.
Like, I don't even know the name of the song.
It was Lil somebody.
You couldn't even hear it because it
Lil
was
Pump. Lil Pump, that was his name.
Whatever.
They're all Lil.
Why?
Why don't you motherfuckers ever grow up?
And also, what was so distracting is that Kanye was dressed as a Perrier bottle, and what was the other guy dressed as?
He was dressed as like a juice box or something.
I don't even know what the music sounded like.
With a big video of a woman like texting.
Right. I don't know, which was censored. So, of course, we're on the West Coast. So by the time that we got to see the show, like the performance was cut in half, and what I read about was because it was
laced with just curses, just cursing.
So you know you're going to be on national television. You know that stuff is going to be censored. So why would you limit your audience?
Because he looked like a damn fool. Now, if you haven't noticed, people say it's ever since his mom died, and it's true. This dude was a genius. He was hip hop. Mm-hmm. He was truly hip hop. I mean, one of the greatest things I think Kanye had ever done was when he got Rakim, KRS-One, and Nas on a track called Classic with DJ Premier doing the beat. I mean, come on. This dude actually did this. And then, I don't know what happened, but man, it was a downward spiral. Remember when George Bush and Hurricane Rita and Katrina hadn't done anything for black people in New Orleans, and he was on the TV with Mike Myers, and, dude's like, out of nowhere, George Bush doesn't care about black people, and Mike was like, you. And to be able to speak spontaneously against a sitting president was just, it was really bold. Mm-hmm. It was really bold, and people are like, yo, Kanye is like the blackest thing ever. Like, that's wildin'. That's crazy. And then you get this downward spiral where then he just starts dating Amber Rose, and then he goes up drunk to tell Taylor Swift that Beyonce deserved the thing.
Oh, yeah, on stage.
And it just was a downward spiral.
Married a Kardashian, which, look, I'm telling you, that was dumb.
I was about to say, once he got with Kim Kardashian, it was a wrap. Mm-hmm. That was it. And now we've gotten to where he has stated something even dumber. You know what? I might even say dumber. I'm gonna add the beat to it. I'm gonna even add the beat to it. He was dumber.
It's that bad.
It was that bad. So first of all, he runs around with a Trump hat, praising Trump. Trump has been one of the most divisive as well as racially aggressively, like, just this guy hates everything that's not white male.
Mm-hmm.
There's
and
too
white
much,
female.
And even still, white females will support him like a champion. They voted for him 53%. But he hates anything darker than him. And when it comes to immigrants, it's only his wife. And that's about it. So I'm telling you, this guy went and said something with Make America Great Again hat. And he now posted, he's also going by the name Ye now. But he put, this represents good, talking about his hat, the Make America Great, represents good and America becoming whole again. We will no longer outsource to other countries. We will build factories here in America and create jobs. We will provide jobs for all who are free from prisons as we abolish the 13th Amendment. Message sent with love. Now, in case you don't know, the 13th Amendment actually abolished slavery, except for prisoners. This dude is telling that he wants to abolish the abolishment of slavery. So he wants to reinstitute and reinstate slavery. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he was talking about. He tried to clear it up, but he just sounded like a damn fool.
And then didn't he correct himself later on? Saying amen.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's what I said. He tried to. Anyway, we're going to go into the break.
Please listen carefully.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Zod.
And I'm Drea.
And we want you to check out the Zod and Drea podcast every Tuesday.
Where can everybody find us at?
You can always check us out on www.zodanddrea.com.
Where else?
You can always check us out also on Facebook at Zod and Drea.
Instagram?
Zod and Drea.
Snapchat?
Zod and Drea.
YouTube.
Zod and Drea.
I see a pattern.
So if you haven't caught that, catch us at Zod and Drea on all the social networks. But also, make sure you subscribe to the Zod and Drea podcast. Where?
At zodanddrea.com.
And also on YouTube and iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. We're coming for you.
Let us know what you think, and if you want to be a guest, reach out to us.
And put all of your input into whatever our topics are for the week. So we hope to check you out and see you there.
Bye!
All right, we're back.
So what's the topic now?
So the topic here is Brett Kavanaugh and the measure of sexism and privilege.
I should say, oh gosh, this is the topic we've talked about all week. This has consumed the week, really.
This has been consuming the week in the news cycle, in case you haven't seen it. Now, some of the things that I can't, it's going to all tie in, but some of the things that I can't believe that I had seen were all of these women who are so pro Brett Kavanaugh. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. Brett Kavanaugh is a judge who Trump has brought forward to be the Supreme Court nominee because Justice Kennedy left. So he wants to be in that space. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously charges come out because, if you haven't been watching the news cycle, charges come out because Brett has been accused of sexual assault. And Christine Blasey Ford is the person who brought assault to him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the dichotomy, the way that I can't even explain what happens next, because it's almost something out of a soap opera that you just don't expect to see. And it threw me off. The fact that, okay, there's a charge. Dianne Feinstein's office was given, an alert that a woman was coming forth to charge Brett Kavanaugh that back in 1982 she was raped by him.
But even go further than that. Didn't Dr. Ford do an anonymous?
No, that's what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So she went to Feinstein's office and she told her, in order for it not to make a big deal out of it, but to protect herself, because she wasn't sure what to do next. It's like, let's just be anonymous. I'm trying to figure a way to do this anonymously without my life being uprooted. Everybody remembers what happened to Anita Hill during the Bush years when Clarence Thomas was up for his nomination and to be, eventually elected onto the court, or appointed, I should say, onto the court by Senate. And here we go again during another Republican Senate where they are facing a lot of scrutiny for things that they've done, especially within the Me Too movement and, Roy Moore, and the fact that Republicans have really hardcore been openly backing sexual assault people, namely the president, as well as some others, where you have all of these white men facing this white woman, and they put a shield of, another white woman in front of them to protect them. Mm-hmm. Like that, just that image, I'm sorry, was just completely throwing me off. So my whole sentence probably doesn't make sense to where I was starting off at that point. But it's like just that image of this one woman being scrutinized by all of these white men. I mean, just that circle and that image of all of them, where she had to protect herself, but she was trying to keep a low profile and didn't, want to do it. By the time it came out, here's my thing, because it came out later on, and then the Republicans and conservatives were pissy about it even coming out, saying, "Oh, why now? Mm-hmm, oh, this is, what are you doing? This is our guy, Kavanaugh. He's the best. He's awesome, and we want him on the Supreme Court." And just the insensitivity of it all shows you how much these men completely relate more to Kavanaugh than they do as Dr. Ford if she were their sister, wife, mother, cousin, aunt. And it's amazing to me that they would choose the side of a potential, I'm not saying he is, but a potential rapist, than they would the side of somebody female in their family. Mm-hmm. I mean, explain to me if I'm wrong.
No, it is. It's mind-blowing. Like, it literally is blowing my mind, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised to see and hear this constant chatter, and you saw it during the it's not even a trial. It's his interview, really. It's an interview process he's going through right now. So Dr. Ford was that person that, if you were taking an interview, would say, you know what, maybe this guy, I'm not going to give him a recommendation, and I'm going to tell you why, right?
Yeah.
And what happened to her, I believe her, because I know and have seen, has been impacted by loved ones and dear friends of mine of trauma that does not then come to the surface until decades later, or maybe a few years later, because it's a trigger that happens. Either they're in a room and they see something, and then boom, they remember that trauma. They smell something, they hear something, they taste something. Your brain will protect yourself so that you can still function in the world without having to always reflect on the trauma that happened to you. And especially women, we've been conditioned somehow in our brains to protect us, and has like was brought up then during this awful trial of hers, is why didn't you act this way? Why didn't you push him off? Why didn't you do this? Well, because she froze. You get to that point where you're like, what the hell's going on? What? Like, your brain is actually frozen because it's trying to understand what is going on, but yet at the same time protecting you. So anyways, what was revealed in the clearest way is how much of an entitled asshole this guy is. and of his history of always getting his way, no matter when he is defensive and how biased he is. How is this guy supposed to sit on the Supreme Court right now during when so many racial and not only racist cases are coming up, including the Muslim ban, the so many others. I'm sorry, there's a lot of my mind going on. I just don't understand how this could be happening right now and why it's even progressing. Why is this job interview even progressing to the next level? There must be something that they want to do.
No, there's something they want to do, and I want to know why Lindsey Graham was so quote-unquote angry. I mean, his faux anger was hilarious, but he was so angry that Kavanaugh, how dare. Now, really think of these optics, and when you see this, a woman is doing something where her life is going to be ruined for even bringing this up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like reliving it twice so that she winds up, okay, I buried this in my head because I didn't want to have to deal with it, especially back in the 80s. I didn't want to deal with this. People don't yell at the boys who grow into men after the Catholic Church priests molested them.
Right.
I have not seen anybody call them liars. I haven't seen anybody and then again, I also haven't seen anybody actively go after the Catholic priests in the same time. But, you know, they are willing to understand what these men have been through, and they're willing to sympathize them as boys. But when women are girls and men do this, it's just, oh, boys will be boys. And, well, I think something happened to her, but I just don't think it was Brett Kavanaugh. What made you come to this conclusion when this guy is clearly belligerent sober, and you're trying to tell me he who is a drunk, you can say what you want, or at least this guy loves his frigging beer, but you are trying to tell me that he is a sane man after he's had drinks and he's horny around his boys on beach week?
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to tell me that he is incapable of attacking a woman? Look, I don't want to throw, into the fire, but this guy, if this is the best that you have, and in a job interview, I had written this as a post, but if you were, and the fact that some women are like, no, I'm for Brett, and then there's a whole team of women who's like, oh, no, Brett, let's go for Brett.
Or what was that one woman on CNN, what she said, that was interviewed her? What 17-year-old boy hasn't done this?
Oh, what 17 hasn't? Like, Jesus, lady, how many times have you been raped?
I hope you're not raising sons.
Like, Jesus, like, this is what you find to be normal, and you see these women. So there's some who, obviously, they were like, well, it's kind of like Trump. These are the ones who wind up voting for Trump, who has 19 accusers of sexual abuse against him. And people think that he is just this awesome guy. He's Trump. He is
just
awesome.
Right there with Jesus Christ.
Man, is he? Because he's MAGA. He can rape whoever he wants, and I'm not going to believe it. These people, the fact that if my sister came up to me, my mother, my aunt came up to me and said I had been molested when I was this old, and it was like 50 years ago, I'm going to tell you guys something. I would damn sure believe them.
Mm-hmm.
I would believe them. Republican men may not. A lot of Republican women may not, but I do. And you can tell that they're trying to shove this guy in. They're trying to shove him as fast as possible because the midterm elections are coming up and the Republicans are not looking so great in the House. I think they're going to keep the Senate, but they're not looking so great in the House. And that is why they're trying to cram this guy in, because then they would have to wait. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Lindsey Graham says, no, I've never seen this. This is a miscarriage of justice. But he completely forgot what they did to Merrick Garland by stalling Barack Obama's nomination for a justice for 400 days.
Wow.
Yeah, or 10 months.
Yeah, 10 months. It was 10 months.
I could have sworn it was 400 days. I got to look it up. But, like, without a doubt, it was definitely 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
And you've never seen this before? You literally were part of the people who did this before.
Yeah.
And so at a job interview, this is the guy that you want. This is the best guy you can get. If I started crying, if I was at a job interview being interviewed by a woman, and all of a sudden news came out while I'm being interviewed on my second interview that, you know what, this guy, he raped somebody, and there's a witness, and there's somebody there, and there's 3 people coming out
so far
that he raped women in like 10 years ago, and and he drinks a lot of friggin' alcohol, and then I come to the interview, and I'm like, you know what, I don't do that. How dare they say that about me? Why would I do that? Are you gonna hire me?
Right.
Like,
or you have the balls to even attack then your interviewer.
I attacked the interviewer.
Yeah, like, well, don't you drink? How much do you drink?
How much you drink, huh?
Like, I would have been escorted out of the building.
You would have been escorted out, but these people think that this is the best person to represent the nation and 330 million people.
That's what I want to know. What are you trying to push? What type of laws and policies are you trying to push?
So that comes to between race, which is obviously white privileged. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to, we're going to rattle off a few things with white privilege, but it also comes with sexism. Mm-hmm. The fact that Dr. Ford had to be a quiet, mousy woman while this guy is yelling and belligerent. He looks like a hero.
Oh, yeah.
Because
he wasn't going to take it anymore from them.
He wasn't going to take it. Let her do that. What would she be called?
Oh, she would be called a bitch.
Yeah.
She would be called emotional.
She would be emotional.
Called unhinged.
I don't call women the B word, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly what would be happening. But let's go down the line real quick. All I did was do a quick Google search on rapist, no jail time. Washington Post. The rapist of a 13-year-old at church camp got no prison time.
Why?
He looks very pale to me, but, why? I guess she was only 13. And you wonder why some women don't say anything. When you're 13 years old and you've been raped and your killer, your rapist gets out and gets no prison time. Mm-hmm. Next one. The title, Doctor Convicted of Raping Sedated Patient. Guess what? Gets no jail time.
That was just this week,
That was just this week. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was recently. This was like August. So, got no jail time. Rapist. But his name was, I think, Safiq Sheikh, 46, who was internal medicine at Baylor or something like that. He has to register as a sex offender, but another one. He may not be racially motivated necessarily, but he's definitely a man.
Mm-hmm. And he's definitely a lot of privilege. He's a doctor, lots of money.
Virginia judge who let rapists walk free. What happens? Can you see it?
Sentenced man in sex assault case to no jail time.
Yep, Virginia male. Tied up a 14-year-old girl, sexually assaulted her, and will serve no active jail time. So
we see a pattern here.
Yeah.
He's 19,
met her when she was 14, and it's all good. White man.
So I got to the point where I just didn't want to watch it anymore. Remember, like, the day that the entire whole case happened, when the whole... Mm-hmm. I just refused to watch it because I could not wrap my mind around why this was happening. And, you feel a little defeated as a woman. Like, well, shit. Well, of course now women aren't going to want to report anything.
Like, why would you?
Yeah.
When this is happening. Stockton man who pleaded no contest to raping a 5-year-old. Sentenced to house arrest.
House arrest?
House arrest. We can keep going on. Virginia judge who let a rapist walk free sentenced a man 19. We can keep going on. Like, this is just like the first page. Of course, we know Brock Turner. And then there's also no prison for a Colorado student. College student who raped a helpless young woman.
What about the guy in
Austin Wilkerson?
I can't talk. Alaska.
What happened in that one? I'm running to all the.
And maybe we won't talk about that because we're just adding.
Just adding, but you're seeing, and to add privilege, and you can wonder why some of these white women also do this. I didn't even look up the school teachers who are usually white who wind up sleeping with their 8th graders or 9th graders, 10th graders, whatever. They wind up sleeping with their students, get busted. How many, especially if they are pretty, blonde, and white?
Right. They don't get any time.
They get no time.
And some of them don't even get registered as a sex offender.
Nope. It's like the judge, who then, that's still sexism because the judge is usually very male, and they wind up giving them off because, you've got, but try to find these same stories of people of color. Try to find the same ones.
So what do we do? What do we do as a society so that this doesn't continue on?
Number one, we don't put people like Brett Kavanaugh on the bench. Mm-hmm. We didn't do that with Neil Gorsuch, so don't think it's that Republican
and Neil Gorsuch
Democrat.
was a saint.
Yeah, so he got on the bench. It didn't take that long. He got on the bench. Kavanaugh is a red flagger, hard. He does not need to be on here. He doesn't deserve to be on it. And listen to women when they say that they've been raped and assaulted.
Listen to us.
All right, sorry about all that, but we get a little bit emotional on here when it comes to some things, but this is all just common sense to me. Is it just me?
Right. So, my thing is this: if you got some privilege, use it the right way. Don't use it for evil.
Like, please, and
help others.
Help others, and see what people are doing. Notice the pattern, and make sure you report it. Mm-hmm. And if people don't report, then please listen to them. Listen to them because they are hurting and they have traumatic things going inside. Nobody ever forces a soldier or yells at a soldier who has PTSD and is going through pains every time he hears a car backfire, 20 years later. So stop blaming these women.
One other solution we have, remember in November, show up to the polls.
That's
Any of these senators that are coming up for re-election, you show up to the polls.
All right, make sure you check us out, ZodAndrea.com, ZodAndrea at all the social medias, as you can see out there, and make sure you follow us and call our phone number and leave a message, all right?
Believe you, Dr. Ford.
Peace.